Good day, everyone. Welcome to G Class 101. Today we will talk about the legal basis on language of instruction. First, we have the 1935 Constitution. In 1935, a national fundamental law was drafted prior to a shift of the country's political status from that of U.S. colony to Commonwealth. This 1935 Constitution provided for a national language based on one of the Philippine languages. On December 30, 1937, Commonwealth President Manuel L. Quezon issued Executive Order Number 134 designating Tagalog as basis of the national language. The choice was recommended by the National Language Institute created by the Commonwealth Act Number 184 on November 13, 1936, chaired by Jaime C. de Vera as Speaker of Waray, the language of Samar and Leyte. To carry out the constitutional mandate under the Commonwealth, the elementary curriculum was made to include the teaching of the national language obligatory. It was first offered as a subject in school year 1939 to 1940 in the public schools. With full autonomy given to Commonwealth government, there was a need to make Filipino pupils and students aware of learning a common native tongue. The establishment of the Commonwealth called for a reorientation of educational plans and policies to conform to the requirements of a revised form of government. The 1935 Constitution provided certain educational objectives such as the development of moral character, personal discipline, civic conscience, vocational efficiency, and citizenship training. To carry out the constitutional mandate, a revision of the elementary curriculum was made to include the teaching of the national language obligatory. It was first offered as a subject in 1939 to 1940 in the public schools. Before the Commonwealth, no effort was made to give importance to the native dialects, for it was believed that English should be the basic official language. In 1936, Commonwealth Act Number 184 created the National Language Institute. In 1937, President Manuel L. Quezon issued Executive Order Number 134 declaring Tagalog as basis of the national language. In 1940, Commonwealth Act Number 570 mandated the Filipino national language. Next is the Educational Act of 1940. Another development was the shortening of the elementary curriculum from 7 to 6 years in order to admit more children of school age. The Educational Act of 1940 then called the Educational Magna Carta of the Philippines provided for the system of public elementary education and its matter of financing. Among other things, the Act provided subject to certain conditions for compulsory attendance in the primary grades, the nationalization of the support of the elementary grades, except the elementary grades in chartered cities. The latter remained under the support of the city government, which is the Philippine educational system, 1901 to 1976. On April 12, 1940, President Quezon, in Executive Order 263, required the teaching of the national language in the senior year of all high schools and in all teacher training institutions. The order was implemented immediately by then Bureau of Education. On June 7, 1940, the Tagalog-based national language, referred to as Filipino National Language, was declared as the official language. In the intervening period of the Japanese occupation, year 1941 to 1943, no official action took place, but English was supplanted subtly but not successfully by Nipongo, so the Tagalog-based language developed and flourished through wider usage. Then next, we have the 1973 Philippine Constitution. The 1973 Constitution mandated in the Article 15, Section 3, Number 2 and 3, to wit, the National Assembly shall take steps towards the development and formal adoption of a common national language to be known as Filipino. Until otherwise provided by law, English and Filipino shall be the official languages. In 1973, the National Board of Education in NBE Resolution number 73 7 series of 1973 declared that it was the policy of the government to use two languages of instruction, Filipino and English. Next, we have the 1974 Bilingual Education Policy. The BEP mandated the use of English and Filipino changed to Filipino in the 1987 Constitution as media of instruction in Philippine primary and secondary schools according to a set timetable. The purpose of the policy was for the Philippines to become a bilingual nation, competent in both Filipino and English. The BEP was intended to advance learning in all subjects, propagate Filipino as a language of literacy as well as a source of identity and national unity, and promote English as the language of um, identity and national unity, and promote English as a language of science and technology, of regional commerce, and of international communication. Under the BEP, domains were divided into an English domain, the English Communication Arts, Mathematics, Science, and Filipino domain, or all other subjects. Beginning in grade 1 for Tagalog speaking areas in school year 1974 to 75, and beginning in grade 1 for non-Tagalog speaking areas in school year 1978 to 79. By school year 1981 to 1982, the shift of medium was to begin in all high schools. No definite timetable or program was prescribed for tertiary level institutions except that by school year 1983 to 84, graduates from colleges and universities were supposed to be able to pass examinations in English and or Filipino for the practice of their professions. By the bilingual education policy, Filipino is the medium of instruction in schools for all subjects except natural science and mathematics, for which English is used. There is, however, a reported move to replace English with Filipino for teaching the two subjects, whereby English will be relegated to foreign language in the curriculum. The possible adoption of this scheme has intensified the controversy over Filipino, not only as medium of instruction but also as the national language. Next is the 1987 Constitution. The 1987 Constitution mandates, to which we have Section 6, the national language of the Philippines is Filipino. As it evolves, it shall be further developed and enriched on the basis of existing Philippine and other languages, subject to provisions of law, and as the Congress may deem appropriate, the government shall take steps to initiate and sustain the use of Filipino as a medium of official communication and as language of instruction in the educational system. Section 7, for purposes of communication and instruction, the official languages of the Philippines are Filipino and until otherwise provided by law, English. The regional languages are the auxiliary media of instruction therein. Spanish and Arabic shall be promoted on a voluntary and optional basis. Next, we have Section 8. This Constitution shall be promulgated in Filipino and English and shall be translated into major regional languages, Arabic and Spanish. We also have Section 9, the Congress shall establish a national language commission composed of representatives of various regions and disciplines which shall undertake, coordinate, and promote researches for the development, propagation, and preservation of Filipino and other languages. The 1987 Constitution was essentially the same provision on the national language. Hence, the same argument is still used, the non-existence of Filipino. However, that constitution also stipulates the creation of a new language body which was duly created and called the Komisyon ng Wikang Pilipino. In 1992, the Komisyon defined Filipino sa that native language spoken and written in Metro Manila, the National Capital Region, and other urban centers in the archipelago, which is used as the language of communication between ethnic groups. Filipino is further characterized as being in the process of development through loans from Philippine and non-native languages, through evolution of different varieties of the language for various social situations among speakers of different social backgrounds, and for topics of conversation and scholarly discourse. This definition of Filipino should settle the question of its existence. Next, we have the 1991 Congressional Oversight Committee on Education. The language issue in education was highlighted by the Congressional Oversight Committee on Education year 1994 in its comprehensive report on the language issue in education. Herein quoted, on August 13, 1959, Order Number 7 by the Department of Education officially named the national language Filipino. In time, opponents of the 1935 constitutionally mandated language labeled Filipino as Tagalog. Therefore, not the supposedly Tagalog-based national language. When the 1973 Constitution was ratified, it provided that the national language was to be based on Philippine languages. Example, not just Tagalog, and label it as Filipino. The aforementioned opponent shifted to the stand that Filipino, as envisioned in that constitution, was non-existent. So, EDCOM recommended the adoption of policy guidelines for a language of instruction development to optimize and accelerate learning. Tasked with recommending legislations to improve the educational system, it recommended measures to pave the way for Filipino becoming the medium of instruction by the year 2000. EDCOM further recommended that English be used in the teaching of English itself, and that in grade 4, Filipino shall be the medium of instruction and will continue to be the language of instruction for all subjects except English until the fourth year of secondary education. In the long term, there should be a switch to Filipino in a technical vocational education. Sibayan, or the Language Issue in Education 1994, commented, academic achievement is also directly linked to the use of the learner's own language. A case in point would be the International Assessment of Educational Achievement, or the IAEA examination in science. Test results show that the highest scores were obtained by those who studied science in their own language. From among those who took the test in English, high scores were garnered by students whose mother tongue was English and who were taught science education in English. Next, we have the 1999 Lingua Franca Education Project, or DECS, the Memorandum Number 144 Series of 1999. The memorandum has the following provisions. The Department of Education, Culture and Sports is embarking on a pilot study called Lingua Franca Education Project in school year 1999 to 2000, which aims to define and implement a national bridging program from the vernacular to Filipino and later English to develop initial literacy for use in public schools. Through the bridging program, an alternative curriculum will be used in acquiring basic literacy and curriculum will and numeracy skills with the local lingua franca as the language of instruction. The pilot study will involve grade 1 classes from each of the 16 regions. One will be the experimental class and the other the control class. Two grade 1 teachers from each of the experimental schools together with the principal will undergo training before the pilot study. One teacher will handle the grade 1 experimental class while the other will be the alternate. If there is only one grade 1 teacher in the school, the grade 2 teacher will be the alternate. The lingua franca for use in the pilot study was as follows. Region 1, 2, CAR and Ilocano. Regions 3, 4, 5, 6, and 12, ARMM and CR, Tagalog. Region 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, Caraga, Cebuano. Next, we have the RA 10157 or the Kindergarten Education Act of 2012. With RA 10157, an act institutionalizing kindergarten education into the basic education system. The teacher shall use the mother tongue as medium of instruction in developing the competencies for kindergarten learners. The Department of Education issued DO16 series of 2012 guidelines on the implementation of the mother tongue based multilingual education or the MTBMLE. In effect, starting school year 2012 to 2013, mother tongue based multilingual education shall be implemented in all public schools, specifically in kindergarten. Grades 1, 2, and 3 as part of the K-12 basic education program. The MTBMLE shall support the goal of every child, a reader, and a writer by grade 1. The following 12 major languages of lingua franca were utilized as language of instruction and were offered as a learning area for school year 2012 to 2013. We have here Tagalog, Kapampangan, Pangasinense, Iloco, Bicol, Cebuano, Hiligaynon, Waray, Tausug, Maguindanao, Maranao, and Tabacan. Okay. We have next the RA 10533 or the Enhanced Basic Education Act of 2013. The Enhanced Basic Education Program encompasses at least 1 year of kindergarten education, 6 years of elementary education, and 6 years of secondary education. The first batch of grade 12 graduates will be in 2018 for those who started with the first grade 7 in 2013. But the real grade 12 graduates who went through the entire K-12 curriculum from grades 1 to 12 will be the graduates in 2023. Following the standards and principles in developing the enhanced basic education curriculum, the Act clarified to it the curriculum shall adhere to the principles and framework of a mother tongue based multilingual education or the MTBMLE, which starts from where the learners are and from what they already know, proceeding from the known to the unknown. The instructional materials and capable teachers to implement the MTBMLE curriculum shall be available. In support of MTBMLE in 2013, it issued DO28 series of 2013 additional guidelines to DepEd Order number 16 series of 2012, the guidelines on the implementation of the mother tongue based multilingual education or MTBMLE. In addition to the 12 languages of instruction enumerated in the DepEd Order number 60, series of 2012, the following languages were used as the languages of instruction for grade 1 pupils who speak the same languages in the specified regions and divisions starting school year 2013 and 2014. The discussion on language issues on medium of instruction and its concomitant problems should include the intellectualization of the recommended language of instruction, the controlling domains like education, science and technology, industry, professions, and even international relations require an intellectualized language. Sibayan year 1994 characterized a living intellectualized language as follows: that there is a network of active users who depend on the written word more than the spoken word, and they depend heavily on stored knowledge, which requires reading and writing skills. The language is standardized and codified in dictionaries and other references. The language is translatable to other intellectualized languages, and there will develop and accepted registers in the language. Sibayan commented that the chief source language of intellectualization Filipino is English. He cited the case of Korea and Japan, which propagated their languages in the various domains of language. He posed the questions: will Taglish be a future intellectualized variety of Filipino or national language? This has to be pondered upon by linguists and educators in connection with the policies on MTD MLE. So thank you for listening. Please click the subscribe for future lessons. Bye!